Hello, this is John Burroughs. I'm going to be doing my seventh podcast, and it's called Happy 2020 question mark. As you know, that anyone that has listened to me, I do not have any outlines. I don't go by any scripts. I don't do anything like that. Everything I do is totally off the cuff and ad lib. Uh, about my thoughts. So sometimes it might seem disconnected, sometimes it might not. But what I want to talk about right now is um, the year 2020 and what's coming up and my feelings about the New Year celebration and what's happened since. Um, First of all, before I even get into that, I want you people to know, and I'm an open book. I had an anger management problem for many years. I've had anxiety problems, not to the degree of many more people in this country, but my anger management problem was pretty bad at one time, and I went to therapy, and I got a number of tools that has helped me control those anger urges, and it's been very successful. I haven't had to go back to therapy. But anyway, let's get to 2020. So I'm sitting in front of the television and I'm watching the New Year celebration in Times Square. Um, 1.5 million people. Um, this is the one in Times Square. Of course, it happens in other places like Las Vegas, and they switch to those other places. They switch to places around the world. And I'm looking out at Times Square and the 1.5 million people that are watching this thing or are actually present there, and it's many different diversity. It's a diverse group, many different ethnicities, many different cultures, many different types of people, and they all got these big grins on their face. Happy New Year, and you know, that's wonderful that people wish for a happy new year like that, and that at that point in time they're all smiling and they're all together. And quite frankly, probably most of them are drunk. I don't know. But what my point is that um, that's what people want the world to be. People from different cultures, ethnicities. We're a global society. They want us to live together in perfect harmony. Well, I'm going to say to you people out there, quit dreaming during the day. Open up your minds and look at what's happened over the course of history and understand the factor that will never allow us to live in harmony in a global situation. Number one, we all come from different cultures. We're all influenced by different sources. Sources such as our parents, our friends, our religious leaders, our sports figures, all those type of people influence us and mold us and shape us in to the person that we become. Add to that the technological revolution and social media, and now we have people influencing us by the millions all over the world. You had the whole bullying concept where, you know, people were, crying their eyes out because they were being bullied. Well, I I grew up my first 11 years in New York, and you know, bullies are in the minority, but there was enough of them in New York. And I remember hearing that there was this one guy that literally wanted to kick the crap out of me. And he was going to find the right time and opportunity to kick the crap out of me. Okay? So I'm going to compare that to the, I don't know, the countries over in the Mideast calling us the white devil and that they're going to destroy us and the wrath of Allah is going to come down against us. And I don't think being a devout Muslim is that there's nothing wrong with that. The religion itself is actually a very peaceful religion, but fanatics change it. So anyway, this bully was going to find me. So, and I know he's supposed to be a really tough guy, and I was kind of shaking in my boots and kind of hiding and looking over my shoulder. And then I decided I'm not going to live like this. I'm not going to be afraid to go out my front door, play with my friends, do the things I need to do to have a happy childhood or a reasonably happy childhood. So, I went and found him, and I told him I would meet him in the schoolyard of PS, I believe it was PS 199, Public School 199 in New York. And oh God, did he agree to it. And but I'm going to compare that to a preemptive strike. Okay, so we got out there, and he took off his, did all the bully antics, took off his shirt, and just kind of stretched and warmed up, and I just got ready to fight, and we fought, and we fought for quite a while. And, depending on who you talked to back then, it was a draw. But later on, we became reasonably good friends, not great friends, but reasonably good friends. That's one example. Another example is you will never be able to eliminate bias in the world because you're always going to be biased towards yourself. You're always going to take yourself into consideration first, which you should, So there's no way to eliminate this hatred or this bias or this racism or whatever you want to call it. Personally, I'm not a racist. I'm married to a minority. I've had plenty of friends that were minorities, and I'm not saying that just to say it. I'm saying it because they were good friends. But because of all our different upbringings, I have friends that completely disagree with me on issues, but it doesn't affect our friendship. Now, the next thing is my stepfather was in the Merchant Marine his entire life. He's been around the world 25 times. You name the continent, you name the country, he's been there, okay? He's seen every culture, and he's seen all the differences even within the cultures. And I mean, if I was to say his favorite place to visit was probably Japan. He thought Alaska was one of the most beautiful places in the world. But a lot of times I didn't know him very well because he worked his way up to captain and he was gone usually 10 months of the year. But he would come home from different countries and he would bring us samples of their culture. For instance, he brought home a carved alligator that was done by a 12-year-old African boy with the minimal tools possible to carve. And it was absolutely beautiful. He brought a book collection, or compiled a book collection of some of the rarest books in the world. And that was eventually auctioned off after his death. But he also brought home, and I kind of crack up at this because he brought home these two pictures of these old Chinese people. One was the husband, one was the wife, separate pictures. And they were smoking in the pictures. Now, when I was a young boy, I said, God, I guess China's kind of backwards. They don't have pre-rolled cigarettes like Marlboros and stuff like that. They were smoking these hand-rolled cigarettes. Well, as you get older and you become more educated and you start to realize certain things, not only did they look like joints, but they were also smoking opium. I mean, you have to be a fool not to know that, okay? But anyway, what I'm trying to get across to people is this. We have lost our way. We have become stupid. We do not understand what life is teaching us. I mean, I can talk about the recent our recent strike in Iran. I can talk about Rose McGowan, who was once involved with Marilyn Manson. There's a character for you, okay. Once involved with Marilyn Manson, apologizing for 52% of the American people for that attack. Now you take put the countries in different shoes, and if it was Iran that attacked us, and Rose McGowan apologized to the American people, she'd be in a gulag or a prison somewhere being fed gruel. Okay, so what I'm trying to get across, and I've tried to get across in other podcasts, is look at stop dreaming during the day. Everyone's dreaming out there. Okay, stop dreaming. Start looking at what's happening around you. Look at the divide in this country. And you can call it politics. I don't call it politics. I mean, you have an incident like 9/11, then you have an incident like the strike in Iran. That's when both sides of the aisle should get together. But that's not the only time. The other time is if we want to coexist on a global planet in a global society with all the different frickin' influences that are out there, aside from thousands of years of culture, aside from your parents, aside from your friends, aside from social media, we got to learn to think more in the middle. We got to learn to understand that we cannot have a perfect global society. So we have to give up some things, and the other side has to give up some things. But one thing that we have to do is we have to protect ourselves. Just like a mother protects its cub, a president has to protect its country. A leader has to protect its country. Do I think democracy is the perfect form of government? No. But I'm surely not fond of dictatorships and despots and religious fanatics and things like that. The only way we're going to be able to live on this planet in harmony, and that's not perfect harmony, but that's reasonable harmony, is give and take. And what's happening today is no one is even thinking about that. Everyone's thinking, I'm right, I'm not going to listen to anything else. Well, you can't come to a solution to a problem without negotiating certain terms that might not be palatable to everyone, but it's the best solution possible. My kids always laugh at me when I say this, but I was in sales my entire career. I know what it takes to get two sides of the fence together, to make people see the advantages. So I'm going to sign off here, because if I don't, I'm going to go nuts. I'm going to go crazy because, happy 2020, not to mention, I forgot. See, I told you I'd ramble. I forgot. So, I don't know the number. Why don't you count them up for me? How many school shootings have we had? How many incidences have we had the cops shooting minorities? How many incidences have we had where minorities were baiting the cops? All that stuff says to me that we're not even learning from what's happening within our own country, and that's really a shame, because in the end, it's not going to be perfect, but in the end, we have to learn to say, I understand where you're coming from, and I can do this much for you if you can do this much for me. And eventually you come down to an agreement. And then as you go along on the agreement is actually a living, breathing document, and you can make changes to it. Last thing, as long as there is good in the world, everything has an equal and opposite reaction. There's going to be evil in the world. The Far East the Middle East has been battling each other for 2,000 years. So what I'm saying is, once again, you can make agreements, but they have to be agreements with honorable people. And once you detect that there's evil somewhere in there, you have to do something to get rid of it. John Burroughs signing off. I'm pissed off as hell. If you'd like to get some comments, which I'm always begging for, you'd like to subscribe, because I don't know what's going to happen in 2020, but it doesn't look like we're going in the right direction, so you might actually hear me go nuts one time. Anyway, thanks to those who have listened, and I will sign off. See you later.